everyone, it's Elizabeth from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Thanks for joining me today. So this is my astrological take on the astrology for May 2022. So we're continuing with the eclipse season here with another eclipse in May, at the midpoint of May. We've got a Mercury retrograde and then a new moon at the end of the month. So let's start off with the 5th of May. Here we've got an annual conjunction of the Sun conjunct Uranus. It's at 14 degrees though of Taurus, so we're reaching kind of the midpoint here of Uranus going through Taurus. So this is kind of like a halfway checkpoint in some respects, and as opposed to say other times when we've actually got Sun conjunct Uranus. So take a look to see if you've got anything, say, around 14 degrees of Taurus or in the opposite sign, 14 degrees of Scorpio. There may be some significance that happens to you here with regards to something as ethereal as a major connection with the universe where you feel that you're getting messages. It can also represent a wake-up or a shake-up as well, right? And when we look at the fact that we've got both the Sun and Uranus in the sign of the Earth sign of Taurus, this can be something like an Earth event, right? So that could be typically an earthquake, a volcano, that sort of thing can also happen around this time. Now, the next thing we have happening that starts on the 10th of May, we are going to have a Mercury retrograde. And it's happening in the sign that is ruled by Mercury, and that would be Gemini. So it starts its retrograde on the 10th of May at 4 Gemini, 50 minutes. It does go direct the next month on the 3rd of June, but it's going to be at 26 degrees of Taurus. And so this Mercury retrograde covers both these signs. And what's interesting that I thought when I looked at the ephemeris and the chart for this Mercury retrograde on the 10th of May, this retrograde happens very close to the time when Jupiter is going to be ingressing into Aries out of Pisces. I thought that was interesting too. So it kind of is, in many ways, this Jupiter going into Aries is kind of ushering in new types of things, getting on new paths and new things opening up for us. But then this Mercury retrograde in its own sign starts the same time, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe I've got to think a little bit about this. And certainly for those folks that are potentially signing contracts to literally start a new way, a new job in life, anything new in life, I would suggest that if you're starting it around the 10th of May, say a contract, please do look carefully at all the details because Mercury is in its own sign, it kind of exerts not only more of an effect, but it also goes into that classically what we think Mercury retrograde is, like don't sign contracts, back up all your computers, be careful who you send messages to, it could go to the wrong person. Check all your messages. You could be missing messages. So it's those typical things that we're talking about here. But I'm sure other astrologers will be covering this too. The other thing that we've got happening at this time of Mercury retrograde, we also have Venus is going to be in Aries too, at 8 degrees of Aries. Also exerting kind of newness with regards to money, love, and our values, where we may really value ourselves a lot more. We've got the Sun will be sextiling this Mars that's still in Pisces at this time. And so this says to me that this is kind of giving opportunities with regards to Mars is now in the spiritual sign of Pisces. So this is really asking us to harness some of those spiritual types of feelings that we may have, or spiritual endeavors that we initiated, say back in April. For some of us may have gone into more the metaphysical and spiritual things with regards to that whole Jupiter conjunct Neptune, right? That happened essentially around point of April, but continued throughout April, and to some extent still carries on a little bit into May too. We have Mars at this time also is going to be sextiling the north nodes of the that are actually in Taurus right now. And this will be occurring at the time of the total eclipse that we have happening on the 15th of May. So when we've got something like this configuration of Mars, which is energy, providing opportunities to this whole new destiny path for ourselves, it's something to pay attention to. Now, this eclipse that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes occurs on the 15th of May. It is a full moon total eclipse. And I did a whole video on this. So in my video that I did, I go into a lot more details. I go into all the sun signs and the ascendants. I'll put the link down below here if you would like to actually review that video as well. I will cover it too in a little bit of detail here. And I will also cover this as well as the new moon in Gemini towards the end for each of the ascendants and or the sun signs. But we've got all timestamps in the video as well as below in the text box for those that want to either go directly to certain things and bypass my intro. Your choice. So let's get back to this total eclipse that's a full moon. Again, it's on the 15th of May. It's at 9:15 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and it's at 25 degrees of Scorpio, 18 minutes. So we know that Scorpio, you're being highlighted here, and then certainly those folks that maybe have an ascendant around this time too. Both the sun and the moon are going to be squaring up with Saturn, and Saturn is in Aquarius at this time. The moon will trine both Mars as well as Neptune, both of whom are in the sign of Pisces. And that is at about 24 degrees actually. And that was of interest to me too, because I thought, wow, well that 24 degree mark is very close to the degree point in mid-April, where we actually had that once in a lifetime conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune together, right? So this brings in kind of like an favorable opportunities for folks that maybe started something or made some decisions in April with regards to either a dream coming true, reaching for dreams, putting wishes into effect, or just exploring the spiritual side of their lives, or maybe some even enjoying some miracles. This can just add more favorable energy and action, right, when we talk about Mars here. So that's something to look forward to at this eclipse. We have Mercury that is retrograde, as I spoke about earlier, and it will be sextiling Jupiter, which is, as I said, just into Aries right now, right? And so this to me says that there could be some opportunities with the retrograde Mercury and then the Jupiter here sort of illuminating things or making things bigger. Some misunderstandings could get blown up a little bit here. And certainly because now Jupiter has ingressed into Aries, it's going to have a few people that are going to be self-righteous and saying, we're going to do this my way or not. And maybe communicating those things to different folks too. It's also classically could be gaslighting, could be going on big time at this full moon eclipse too, with this influence of Mercury retrograde sextiling Jupiter. Now, I did do a video of the Jupiter going into Aries as well. I'll put that link below too, and I do go into all the sun signs and ascendants in that video as well. So lots for those folks to look at that would like to read and see more. So Jupiter's going to be staying in Aries and going up to 8 degrees of Aries in 2022. Before it'll retrograde back into the latter degrees of Pisces. And that's going to be really towards the end of this year, around mid-October 2022, where it'll take that dip back into Pisces again. So we're still on this total eclipse in Scorpio, and we have a wide sextile with the moon to Pluto. And so this, I thought, was a wonderful opportunity for those folks that want to transform at least their emotional side. And I'm thinking more specifically of Scorpio and then the opposite sign of Taurus. There may be some real opportunities here at this eclipse that maybe come out of the blue to totally transform your life. So stay open and aware. But this is an effect for all of us. It just happens to be that the moon, which of course is in Scorpio, is most affected. We have a Venus that is in Aries, as I mentioned, and it's going to be conjuncting the wounded healer of Chiron. So Venus in this standing here, or this transit and conjunction with Chiron, is really saying, I would like to make things sweet, nicer for you, more from the sense of a balm, in terms of BALM, that I want to stop this wounding that you might have and help you heal a bit. And the way this may come in, though, may be unusual. It may be that it comes through as an individuated thing. So this says to me there may be individuals decide to do it their own way with regards to healing. And this can apply to a general sense where people decide how to heal themselves of the virus, but it can also be specific for individuals with regards to those that do need to heal. Venus provides a positive, beneficial energy. It's viewed as the lesser benefit, but it still does actually give you benefits. It just means with the Aries part that it's more individualized, that you want to seek something out on your own. All right, so that's the total eclipse. The next thing that we have happening this month will be a new moon in Gemini. And that's going to be on the 30th of May at 4:31 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And this is going to be at 9 degrees of Gemini, 3 minutes. And of course, like all new moons, we have the moon and the sun together in a sign, and it is in Gemini. Other things that we have happening at this new moon is we have Mars conjunct to Jupiter in Aries. And so this just gives a lot of new starts. It just is big new starts with a nice favorable dose of energy from Jupiter. If you want to do something on your own and take your own path or pioneer something at this time and you want the energy to do it, I would say this new moon potentially, except for a few other things, which I'm going to cover in a minute, could be an impetus to do that. Now, we have Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini. It is also the ruler of Virgo too, but it's specifically more of a ruler, in my view, of Gemini. And of course, it's still retrograde, but it's retrograde at 26 degrees of Taurus. So here we've got Mercury retrograde now going retrograde out of Gemini back into Taurus. And by doing that, it's actually now forming a square with rule maker, karma manifester, Saturn, which of course is in Aquarius. So this kind of puts a little bit of a fly in the ointment type thing with regards to really getting those newness things started. And because Gemini does really relate to socializing, for sure, it also says, you know, let's collect all the facts and all the information. It says that, and it also refers to any kind of messaging or communication. I would say that the caveat with this new start in Gemini is that you may have to pay attention to supervisors. That's also something that Saturn rules. It also rules the rules. So you may have to pay attention to the rules here and fall into line for those people that do want to have new starts here. Just check out any rules or regulations that are around this new start that you want to have and make sure that you're following whatever they are, or check in with those people that make the rules or reinforce the rules. Not a time to actually ignore rules and regulations, I guess is what I'm really saying. Yeah, so when Mercury does go direct, it will be in Gemini, just for those that are interested. I'll cover this in my June video, but it will go direct at 9 degrees of Gemini on the 23rd of June, those that want to make note of that on their own calendars. So this may be a time when the newness of this new moon really manifests, when the Mercury that's retrograde at this new moon goes direct. But there may even be a second delay, or maybe a rethink or a reconsideration as a result of Mars going retrograde in October. Now, I will cover this in more detail later on, but I wanted to mention it here because it all ties into this new moon in Gemini. And it doesn't mean this is going to be a negative thing for those folks, especially Geminis and maybe Sagittarians that are starting something new. It just means that I'm giving you the heads up that there may be delays, there may be reconsiderations that you decide you want to undertake in October that goes back to this new moon that happens on the 30th of May. So I guess I'm saying allow for potential for that in anything that you're starting new. Now, this Mars retrograde won't go direct till the 12th of January 2023. And it goes direct at 8 degrees of Gemini. And why is that important? Well, it's important because 8 degrees of Gemini is very close to this new moon on the 30th of May, which is at 9 degrees of Gemini. So there's a big tie-in of this Gemini new moon right the way through January 2023. So I would plan for potential, not necessarily bad blocks or full stops. I would just say that follow rules and regulations, check in with superiors, and plan, when you're doing your plan for this new thing that you're doing, plan for potential delays. Plan for rewriting, say something that you're doing involves writing. Plan for reconsidering contracts, for instance, that sort of thing. All right. Venus is going to now be in Taurus, and of course Venus rules Taurus, so Venus loves to be in Taurus. Venus will not conjunct Uranus until the 12th of June, but I'm giving you a heads up on that one too. So this is exciting new romance for some. It can be breakups for other people. It can also be money coming in and money going out as well. But I'll cover that more in my June video. This is just giving you a heads up of this Venus and Taurus conjuncting Uranus, but it's not going to be till June. So I want to say a happy new year to all those Geminis and Gemini rising at this new moon in Gemini. I wanted to give a shout out to all those folks that kindly not only sent me some money for my dog Sasha, but also really inquired about her on a regular basis and really reached out to me. I really appreciate all your concern and all those folks that did send me some money to get her surgery done. I want to confirm that I did get her surgery done and it was very successful. It was a few weeks ago and she's back in full form, eating properly, and really I think has had, I would say, a complete recovery. Sasha is 13 years old and we know that's fairly old if you compare it to human time. We'll see a little picture of her here. So this is a current picture as of April 2022. And again, I just want to give many, many thanks to everyone who supported Sasha. Thank you. I also want to give a shout out to a few people that have birthdays, but the birthdays are in April. I'm a little bit tardy in my happy birthday wishes, but they're two very important people. One of them is my sister, Marianne. She has her birthday in April when I'm making this video, but she's having it right around that very rare once-in-a-life conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune. So I'm sending her lots of blessings, and maybe she's going to have some great inspiration come in for her, maybe some magic and miracles. Happy birthday. I also want to say happy birthday later on in April to my client and friend, Marcy. I'm wishing you happy birthday wishes. Take care of yourself, Marcy. All right, next I'm going to be moving on to the individual signs and or ascendants for each of you. As always, I am very happy to do your chart. If you would like that done, please contact me via my website and then send me an email with your birth date details. But all that information is below should you want that done, and I would be happy to be communicating back and forth with you. All right, so for Cancer, this full moon total eclipse in Scorpio is in your 5th house. Well, that's awesome. And the other thing is, of course, that Scorpio is a water sign like you, Cancer. So this forms a lovely trine, and this is just energy beaming out to you that's positive. So I would say, Cancer, that whatever's tied up in your 5th house at this time, I would say just let it go. And whatever new things are eclipsed in, just accept them as they are. These are all positive things for you. So what areas are we talking about? So the 5th house refers to children. For some reason, maybe a child will be either eclipsed out of your life or come into your life. That could be some Cancers becoming pregnant, or it could be that your child goes off to college at this time or makes a decision to go off to college at this time. It can also be you starting your own business, or you decide that you don't want to do something in particular in your own business, you want to do something else, and this is the decision point for you. At its core, I always remind people that the 5th house is being your authentic self. So Cancer, if you're being your authentic self at this time around the total eclipse, you're going to have things happen in spades for you with regards to your business. So expect a lot of things to come in for you with regards to positive things in your own business at this time. Now, the other thing that could happen is you could have a whole new love come into your life, Cancer. And this could just light up your life. Now, not everyone's going to have that happen, but this total eclipse could just, well, it could eclipse out one person and bring in the other. That could happen as well. The other thing is the 5th house is a highly creative house. So again, if you're being authentic, especially with regards to your creativity, this could be a major turning point for you for creating, for some, works of art, but it doesn't have to necessarily be art. Creativity covers all sorts of things. So good luck, Cancer. You've got lots of positive energy in all areas that I've just discussed for you. Now, a little different when we get towards the end of the month, we've got this new moon in Gemini, which is in your 12th house. The 12th house is a hidden house. It tends to be things that we run away from in our minds, that we shove things under the carpet in the 12th house. And you've got Mercury retrograde there as well. And then the Mars retrograde, of course, is going to be October. So I would say, now for some Cancers, this may be a new start for you saying, I need a rest. So the 12th house is also the house of rest. And it may be that Cancer, you've been so busy in your business and your clients and setting up your clients and earning money that you really need to slow it down. And so for some Cancers, that's just straight off what it's going to be, that you need to take a rest now. And you make that decision around this new moon in Gemini at the end of May 2022. For others, it may be that you decide you want to put some more effort into, over this next year, and energy into really uncovering more of the metaphysical. So that could be shamanic healing, that can be astrology like I'm doing here, but any aspects of the metaphysical world. Because it's, you know, behind the scenes, it could just be literally you buying a whole bunch of books or things on Kindle where you start really delving into these metaphysical things and you have a great interest in it. But the effect's going to be for a while with the Mars retrograde and the Mercury retrograde going on there too. Now, the other thing that could happen too, because we've got a Mercury retrograde ongoing in your 12th house, this could have scrambled communications. So I would say, especially for you, Cancer, just read all communications carefully, double check anything that you send out at this time. Because if you don't, you could have some stuff bouncing back to you when we've got the Mars retrograde happening between October this year and January next year. So that's, I guess, just a heads up to you that anything that you're doing behind the scenes, 12th house is behind the scenes, that could come back to you where you're asked to redo a few things. That could happen as well. And none of these things need to be negative. It just might mean that you're being having to consider things in a different way. Whatever you started new at the end of May have to be reviewed from a standpoint of communications or facts or even socializing. You may have to reconsider those with the Mars retrograde between October this year and January next year. Again, nothing that has to be necessarily negative there. Good luck, Cancer. All right, I want to say I wish everybody a wonderful May. And I look forward to hearing from everybody in their comments. I really enjoy hearing from everybody, and there's a lot more people communicating with me. As I mentioned earlier, I'd love to do your chart. Everything is below in terms of what you need to do. We've got coming up in June a few things. I mentioned that we've got a Venus that's going to be going into Taurus conjuncting Uranus. I would say that's going to be one of the bigger things that's going to be happening in June. Exciting new romance for some people. Other people will have some breakups. I'll talk about that more in my June video. Please take care of yourself. Take care of all the people that you love around you. I'm sending everybody a lot of positive energy, and we'll talk to you soon.